What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Matt Ryan Show. Matthew, how are you doing today?
We're doing it. We're doing okay. I'm really not. I'm not too excited to be speaking about college basketball. My picks were, which we knew this because the show that we had leading up to the first and second round of March Madness, we told everybody that they weren't going to be good.
Yes.
Mine. Now, let me say, my first round was awesome, but second, I only missed 4 games in the first round, but my
I only
second
missed
round
three.
was yeah, my second round is when everything just fell through. I'm pretty sure I even deleted the tournament bracket app. So
Um, that's actually hilarious. I only missed three the first 2 days, the first round, and then that second round got. You know what it is we try to be the non chalk people that we saw on TV. Turns out they're gonna have the best bracket out of anybody, and we were dogging them for it last week.
yeah, but
But they
it's
do that.
still it's not fun.
They do that every year, and so this is not the year that you want to get your bracket correct. Is what I'm saying. If you have a perfect bracket in this one, it's like who cares? You picked all the chalky people. Um, that's kind of how it's been. We obviously I got to go to Rupp Arena on Thursday. It was an awesome experience. I got to hate watch Louisville versus Creighton. Um, it was fantastic every single time. Louisville was about to go on a run. A big shot by Creighton would just shut the entire crowd up, and it was really fun because we were those people that were like, it got to the point where I looked at my buddy, and as everybody was starting to rise up and the crowd was getting into it, and I looked at him, I go, "Which one's hitting the shot here?" It's one of the white kids. It's got to be the blonde or the point guard. And it was like a big point of the game. Louisville was about to come back. This was the run they needed. It would have changed the momentum of the game. The entire game would have been different. Creighton's guard, I can't think of his name, hit a 35-foot volleyball line three that just sunk the hearts of the Louisville fans with about 12 minutes left to go in the second half. It was the greatest feeling you can have as a Kentucky fan. Is just watch everybody just walk out with 6 minutes left to go in the game and just kind of wave and just say bye bye.
Yeah, it's also been an even better tournament because Kentucky has looked really good. Illinois now, Illinois not they haven't been a top 10 team all year this season, but they still are a good team.
They've been
And
they've been top 25 consistently. So
yeah, Kentucky beat a pretty nice team to go to the Sweet 16, and then in the first round it wasn't even close either. When I mean, there were spurts in the first half, but when the second half started, they pretty much dominated Troy. So
yeah,
yeah,
we
it's
could
been
start
a pretty fun tournament to be a Cats fan.
we can start there just because I don't want to spend too much time on it. A lot of pressure from Mark Pope in the first year. Obviously, most reasonable fans don't expect anything going into the year. My expectations were if we can get out of the first round, I'll be happy. If we get out of the first weekend, I'll be ecstatic. And that's what we are today. We are out of the first weekend. There is no more. If he loses against Tennessee in the Sweet 16, great year. It's still a great year. And that's just, expectations go a long way, which is, the reason Cal got fired is because of expectations he puts on himself. Obviously, he's thriving at being the underdog again. I just think that whole situation with Kentucky, Arkansas, BYU, you can call it a three-team trade or whatever you want to call it. It worked out for everybody. You look at those guys the year prior. Um, you know, Obviously Kentucky lost to Oakland. I believe the head coach for BYU got swept in the NBA playoffs that year, and Mark Pope also lost in the first round. To see those three guys make the Sweet 16 is it's nice to know that just a change of scenery can kind of change the outcome of your career. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Arkansas is. I would make the argument they're probably the story of the tournament. It helps that
Yeah,
they beat who I thought was going to win it all, St. John's, in the second round. Even though St. John's, I just got to stop loving those sneaky 2 seeds. I don't know why I call them sneaky because they always lose in the round of 32. I picked Ohio State. I think we went over this. I went Ohio State, Arizona when they were a 2 seed. They lost in the round of 32, I think. And now St. John's. Will I do it again next year? Absolutely. There will be there'll be like a Butler that has like a phenomenal year, and I'm gonna look at my TV and say to myself, is it the Bulldogs year or something like that? So I'll do it again. I'll do it again proudly. But no, I would
There's
say
nothing
Arkansas. What were you saying?
nothing more than a hard. There's nobody loves a 2 seed more than Matthew Hargrove. They're like, oh yeah,
No.
the 4 best teams up there at the top. He's like, yeah, but that seventh team really speaks to me, and I really like that team. So
Well, that's how
all
I
you need
need
to
to
have is a
start. That's how I need to
good
start making my bracket. Is whoever I fall in love with, just mark them down for a round of 32 loss, and then I'll end
at
up having
least.
a. Yeah, I'll lead the ESPN tournament bracket challenge. But Arkansas has been great, and I believe it was Bruce Pearl who was he was on some show. I don't know if it was like for Pat McAfee or for Colin Cowherd or something, but he was asked about what it means to get to that second week of the tournament, and he pretty much said that it's everything. And when you have high expectations for your program and you're not able to get to that second weekend, it pretty much is a bust. And I would say for blue bloods like Kentucky, that is always the topic of conversation. And I've asked a lot of Kentucky fans, what would you think would be a success for Mark Pope? Now, some of them have told me that they think it's already been a success just getting out of the first round and making it to the round of 32 because, first year coach already having those high expectations, it is a lot of pressure. But I would say for those blue blood programs, just because they're able to get the best recruits, it has to at least be a Sweet 16 appearance for it to be a good season, especially if you've been in the top 25 every year. Because, yes, you had a good season if you make March Madness, but if you make the Sweet 16, you go down as one of the great teams of that year. And for a lot of programs, that is end all be all for them. The schools that are not the blue bloods or that are not consistently going to be, or you can count on them getting those recruits. So for Kentucky to make the Sweet 16 with first year head coach Mark Pope, even if they do lose to, they have a really tough matchup against Tennessee, which, in my opinion, that's the game of the weekend. Kentucky and Tennessee, those two teams hate
Yeah.
each other. It's one of the best rivalries in the SEC. I think that's the best matchup of the entire weekend. It's going to come down to the final minute probably. But yeah, I would definitely say it's a success. And then for Coach Cal, I know Kentucky. I know there's some Kentucky fans that hate it. He leaves, and then they make the Sweet 16 with a huge upset against St. John's. But Arkansas, a part of a really good SEC team. Arkansas is still a great team, and they were able to show that.
Well, Cal is great when there's no pressure on winning. When you have an Arkansas team that is a 10 seed that most people had the 7 seed of that matchup winning, and he wins that first one, and then it's Patino versus Cal. This is the storybook matchup that everybody wanted to see. Cal's 9-2 against Patino since really that has mattered since Cal's been Cal. He kind of owns Rick in that way as far as he wins those matchups, and that story alone is awesome. But the fact that Cal as an underdog is somebody you do not want to be playing. When you count him out is when he starts to do his damage. Is when you expect him to make the Final Four every year or make the championship or whatever. Is when his teams start to feel that pressure. When you go out there and have a guys that don't feel any pressure and he gets to say nobody expects us to win. You can go have those performances like you had in that round of 32, round of 64, the game at Rupp. I mean, those are performances that young kids thrive on like that. That you don't have any pressure, you just go out there and play. And if you lose, nobody expected you to win anyway. And if you win, it's one of the best stories in college basketball.
Yeah, overall, I know the last handful of years at Kentucky, they really weren't good. Well, I don't know about good, but they just didn't live up to expectations of what he brought early on when he was the head coach of that program. But at the end of the day, when you think about the top five coaches of the last decade, I have a hard time not
Easily,
thinking about John Calipari.
easily.
So that's the thing. He and even Rick Pitino, I ate up every second of Pitino and Cal talking about each other. and just them talking about the respect that they have for each other, even though they're not best friends. Which that I love
They,
because
that's a understatement. They hate each other. I don't know if you listen, like, according to KSR, Matt Jones, who has more inside information than most of us, they do not like each other. Something happened, I guess, while Rick was at Louisville and Cal's at Kentucky that kind of hasn't, nobody's swept that under the rug. It hasn't gone under the bridge. They hate each other, and that was their version of saying that we do. Because most coaches go, yeah, I mean, it's just another matchup. Who cares? But they were just like, yeah, we're not the best of friends, but, I respect him, which is another way of saying on live television, I can't stand that guy.
and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I think there was a video. John Fanta might have got a video where Patino was yelling about Cal about something towards the end of the game, and I'm surprised the video didn't blow up more. It might have been he. The comment was just Patino and Cal getting into it. It might have just been a little thing, and that's why I didn't see more videos on it. I thought when I saw that first one that it was going to be a huge story, but it kind of just washed over as the tournament went on. But it made me so upset that either Patino is not in the SEC, so we couldn't get that matchup 2 times a year, or that Cal wasn't in the Big East. Now, big news because Patino's son from the Fighting Lobos, who made some noise in the tournament, New Mexico, he is now the new head coach for Villanova, which is great because college basketball is
Is
better
it,
when.
is it
Go ahead.
Villanova or Xavier?
It's Villanova. Sean Miller, the coach at Xavier, is now at Texas. He got the job at Texas. I'm
See,
pretty sure
that's
I
what I
saw
thought.
Villanova.
That's what I thought originally, and then I saw. Let me pull it up real quick because I don't want to be wrong. I thought I saw John Rothstein tweet that he's going to
And he said Xavier.
Xavier, and I don't know why. Like, because I had this argument with everybody else. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off like that, but
No, no.
either way, it's the Big East.
Yeah, and but to add on to that conversation, yeah, the Patino and Cal stuff is awesome, and you're exactly right by them saying that they have respect for each other. But even Cal said something in his press conference before the game. He said that when you have a head coach at Kentucky and Louisville, you're just naturally not going to like the other person. So he even acknowledged that there definitely is some hate there between each other, or not hate, but there's he said it too. They're not sending Christmas
Animosity.
cards to each other. Animosity. That's the word for it.
Yeah, and they shouldn't. That's not how. I mean, at some point, there's got to be rivalries that stay intact. If that means you don't like the other coach, then that's. I mean, you don't have to like everybody in the business. That's not. We're not all buddy buddy. This isn't the NBA, So,
What's awesome is they're both Italian. You
so
couldn't script
yeah,
that rivalry any better.
the official word from Rothstein. I don't know if this is still to be the case, but he's posted a lot since then and hasn't taken it back. Is that Xavier is hiring New Mexico's Patino?
Okay, well then I guess
I did see a
there was a
post that
Villanova
said
tweet.
Villanova, and I guess it wasn't. Um, you know, Twitter is hard to tell
Valid,
what's
yeah,
real
it
and what's
really
not.
is. Yeah,
So you might have got ball sacked or sent held. But
possibly.
I
I mean, man, during the Juan Soto this past off season, everyone was an insider
yeah,
on Juan Soto. There was Red Sox reporters or accounts. They were 100% sure that the Red Sox were going to sign Soto, and then same on the Yankee side. So yeah,
all for him to go to the Mets. That's crazy. Yeah. So either way, Big East basketball. You talked about it. That is huge news. Another big news before we switch over because we're going to talk about a lot of games here. Actually, you know what? I'll save that. We'll talk about our games. So, round of 64 went well for everybody. Had a few upsets, but nothing crazy. McNeese won. Colorado State won. Two teams that I guess a lot of people kind of had ended up being close to favorites as far as the sports books goes. Um, McNeese gets the first, I think, their first win in school history. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah.
I might have made that up. And then that whole controversy with Will Wade.
Congratulations, McNeese,
Yeah.
for
Um,
their first tournament win since 2025.
yes, that is correct. Will Wade, the whole controversy right after the first game was that he had already taken an NC State job before they were done at McNeese. And I loved his response because this is the new age of college basketball. There were 700 players hit the transfer portal 2 days ago or yesterday, whenever this is coming out, um, as of recording. And it's just, you go to those schools so that you can upgrade to get to the actual job you want. Iowa's brand new head coach was at Division II 2 years ago. I guess 2 years ago now. Um, So he goes from Division II basketball, brings all of his players at Drake. They win a game. They have a great season. And now he's the head coach at Iowa, and he brings his best player with him so far. That's just the way college basketball works. His answer was perfect to me. It was, listen, I'm focused on McNeese right now, but it'd be stupid for me not to take that job before they hire anybody else. Before, if we make a deep run and they go hire somebody else, I've lost out on the opportunity because what? Because I didn't want to take the jump while I was still with this team. I mean, he said it himself. He's got guys on his team that are already fielding offers with other teams, and he enjoys it. He's like, that's what we're here for, is to grow and get better. So I think it was, the transparency was great, to not deflect and go, no, I'm worried about McNeese right now. We'll deal with that when the end of the season happens, because that's not how it works in college basketball anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, and they tried to, there was a narrative. There's always a narrative created when that something happens like that for a coach that has got a small program going well. There's always that narrative of, oh, you're not loyal to your guys. And
Who's loyal to
he even came
McNeese?
out and said, I've had conversations with my players throughout the season, them telling me they want to move on. And that's just it. It's it's always really been like that, but more now because of the transfer portal. But I love that you have mid-major schools that are D1. I love all these D1 schools, but Power Four is essentially, if you compare it to like Major League Baseball, that is the MLB. Mid majors are the minors. If you are a underclassman and you're at a mid-major school, that is a stepping stone for you to get to a Power Four conference. Everybody wants to get to that. And it's the same thing for incoming freshmen. If they started a school like McNeese, the goal, I would assume, in 2 to 3 years is to end up playing for like a UConn and get your name out there so you have a better chance of getting drafted. Obviously, you can always get drafted at McNeese State, but if you play well at McNeese State, there's still going to be some doubts. If you play well at UConn, there's not going to be many doubts, and you're probably going to end up a lottery pick. So
Is it McNeese State? I didn't. Is it State or is it just McNeese?
McNeese State.
I didn't even know that. See, that's how little we know about the college that they're leaving. Is that they won't even be talked about next year. But
I'm looking that up
Will
right
Wade
now,
will
and
be.
I'm 98% sure that it is. No,
Sure. I mean,
It's McNeese. It's McNeese. But that just shows my point. One of us didn't know.
yeah, yeah. And in about 38 hours, nobody's gonna care. Um, I get it. Nobody likes that everybody's moving around. It's just the way it is right now. You're gonna have to deal with it. I like the fact that it used to be people would complain about, oh, well, the coach is leaving the players out to dry. The coach gets to move all this stuff. Well, now the players can follow them. So there's no more of that. So now if you're just mad because the school gets screwed over, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you're just getting mad over anything that could possibly be thrown your way. So I like that from Will Wade. And he's been good wherever he goes. I mean, obviously he had the LSU um, allegations and the mess ups, you could call them, while he was there, but he won everywhere he went. So it's a good hire for NC State. Should make the ACC a little bit better because they really do suck outside of the top few teams. Um, Last thing
Also,
here.
another point on the round of 64,
Yeah.
and I guess I guess there's been a uh, also another narrative of, and the reason why it was brought up is because it was brought up on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith said it. They were talking
That
college
should be good.
ball. Um, I actually love Stephen A. Smith. I know he's kind of getting tossed around right now, especially after LeBron James went on the Pat McAfee show. I'm not sure if you saw that today,
Yeah, I did.
and really tore into Stephen A. and Brian Windhorst. And I know it's easy to make fun of those guys for bad takes or something like that, but I actually really like Stephen A. Smith. I've read his book. It's really inspiring. Him growing up in New York and talking about the first time they got fired. But anyways, he said that he thinks that if there's not more upsets in college basketball, that it's going to ruin the sport. And he said that because compared to years past, there wasn't as much madness. And I think that's true. There wasn't a ton of games in the first round where I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what the NCAA tournament is all about. Now there was some really close games, but there wasn't a lot of huge upsets. I would even say that the upsets that happened, they weren't surprising because a lot of people picked them. A lot of people thought that McNeese was going to beat Clemson. I think a lot of people liked Drake over Missouri, the 11 seed over 6. So there wasn't in the second round there was a lot more madness with the Arkansas win, and then Colorado State was pretty close, but I think that take is ridiculous because
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of conversation about the NBA and how the numbers are down, and I can understand that, but we got to. I don't want this to turn into when something bad happens in a sport. Oh, it's the dying of the March Madness will never die. I don't care if all the better seeds win. People are still going to watch March Madness.
Let me read you some stats as to how rare this actually is. That's happening. Because he acts like no matchups or no upsets are happening as far as like anything below 12. As if we didn't just see for the first time ever a 16 seed win 2 different years in within the last I don't know 6 or 7. So like that's case number one. Here's the other one. 2000 last I am tripping over my words like crazy today. The last time all 4 number 1 seeds went to the final four was 2008. The last time all 4 number 1 seeds went to the Elite Eight was 2015. So we're talking 10 years ago. 2015, 2016 tournament. So 2016, 9 years ago. That was when Oregon was a number 1 seed. That was that Duke also number 1 seed?
Well, no,
I'm trying to think.
not in 2015.
2015. I had it up earlier. North Carolina was a number 1 seed. Let's see. Virginia, Oregon, and Kansas. And out of that group, obviously Villanova won the last second shot against North Carolina. They were a 2 seed. But that's the last time the Elite Eight had all 4 number 1 seeds.
Okay, gotcha.
Could
Okay, sorry,
could happen
I
again
missed
this
the
year.
Elite Eight.
Could happen again this year. But right now they're in the Sweet 16, and there's a good chance that one of these teams could lose, and we don't get that. But it also makes the matchups from here on out much better because as much as we love the Cinderella stories, by the time they get to the Final Four or the Elite Eight, it doesn't matter. Like Loyola Chicago, one of the best Cinderella stories ever. The Final Four, I can't even remember if it was a close game or not, but I know for a fact that they weren't close enough to make it interesting at the end. So it's just like at some point you're about to get the best matchups of the tournament coming up, and that's going to boost your ratings even more because everybody loves the first 2 rounds. Everybody watches that. When the tournament starts getting down to, one game at a time, that's when the viewers start losing interest because they can't flip back and forth. Um, so like now you're getting the best matchups you can possibly get, and it makes for great basketball. Hopefully,
Yeah,
hopefully.
like I said, you have the Kentucky Tennessee game on Friday night, which I already said I think that's going to be the best matchup. Houston Purdue, Houston's got a juggernaut. Purdue's got the Big Ten Player of the Year. BYU and Alabama. BYU going on a run.
You want to talk about points? You might see 200 points in that game between both. 100 points each on each side. They love to score the basketball, and nobody really likes to defend on those teams. So
No, they do.
take.
Defense is not fun.
I'm putting the house on the over. So let's just say that.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
Duke and Arizona are playing each other. Those are two historic programs. Arizona won a national championship in the '90s. I want to say it was '97. Duke
Mm-hmm.
is hate them or love them. They're the Yankees, the Lakers of college basketball, and you also have Caleb Love, who's trying to get another win against Duke in the tournament. There's some phenomenal hoops being played this weekend.
And there were some phenomenal hoops that were played. I mean, maybe the round of 64 wasn't the greatest. Obviously, there was a lot of blowouts. UCLA blew out Utah State. Gonzaga went on I think they started out the game 23-4. I think was the score I saw as we were leaving Rep Arena. And I was like, okay, well that game's over. Maryland beat Grand Canyon by 30. Like a lot of these teams got blown out, and there wasn't that many great matchups. However, um, Auburn was very close in the first half to losing to Alabama State. Like that was a close game. It was a 2-point game with 3 minutes left in the first half, and Alabama State missed a layup and 2 free throws, and then Auburn went on a 9-0 run just like that. So like, depending on how the ball bounces, that those games could turn out differently. Auburn, it seems like the most vulnerable team to me right now in the tournament that's still left. I thought Michigan played very well. Everybody loves UC San Diego for some reason as an upset. Didn't happen. They went on to beat Texas A&M. So there's been a lot of good games. However, I do want to point out you and me had some of the most egregious picks as far as getting to the Final Four. You had UConn in yours as an 8 seed. I had Gonzaga in mine. And we're going to cut to actually a clip from last week that a buddy of ours made, and we'll take a moment of silence for that.
The West has my biggest upset of the tournament.
Okay.
And it is, I'm going to ride with them until I see them lose. And I'm picking UConn to beat Florida in the second round.
Yep, same play, and then the roll. Nice help by McNeely. Clayton, downtown hit.
And that was beautiful because what you said was that you got on this rant about how UConn can put up a fight, and did they ever? I mean, they took Florida to the brinks. Walter Clayton Jr. was just better than everybody else on the floor. That's just how it is. He was at Iona last year with Rick Pitino, I guess 2 years ago, when UConn destroyed them, and he kind of got his get back there at Florida. So it was a great game. Gonzaga, Houston was a great game. So we weren't too far off in our picks. We just came up short.
Yeah, that's why I've deleted the Bracket Challenge app. Yeah, I had UConn in the Elite Eight. UCLA was my Final Four pick.
I forgot about that.
They lost to Tennessee. So that was actually my sleeper. And, I mean, that game was kind of close. They ended up losing by 9, but I don't think there was a lot of moments in the game where Tennessee was too scared. I'm trying to think, I think I had one more. The only one I really have going for me right now, I did have BYU in the Elite Eight. So that's the only one that I could as a sneaky pick. But my Oregon Ducks, I had them in the Sweet 16. Lost a tough game to Arizona. Caleb Love was just
25,
outstanding. He
25-year-old Caleb Love.
He had a game where if you're the best player on a team that is going to the Sweet 16, you have to have. I think he had 29 points, like 6 rebounds and 4 assists. Ducks had no answer for him. And it seems like every time Oregon would try to to get back into the game or go on a run, Caleb Love would pull up at the top of the key and knock down a three. He's been great. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch in that Duke game. So, but yeah, pretty egregious, pretty egregious picks.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, you gotta swing for
Am
the
I
fences.
ashamed? No.
No.
To be honest with you, when UConn was up by, I want to say there was a moment they were up by a few points in the final 10 minutes. I was feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I honestly, Gonzaga wasn't really in the game. I mean, they were in it, but they were constantly like 8, 10, 12 points behind. And then they made a late push, and I thought, don't let the boys get hot.
Get hot.
Because
I don't know how we can change this. There's too many Bulldogs. We as a society, it's not like there's any more. We don't need any more universities being built in America. Was during the 1900s when all these really maybe late 1800s.
I mean, we can go through it. Mississippi State, Georgia, Gonzaga.
What was up with Bulldogs? Were they
I don't
just
know.
the favorites of, like, would you go outside to hang your clothes up and you were just like, gosh, I got to have a Bulldog by my side
Well,
or
like,
something
and
like
if it was
that?
like supposed to be an intimidation thing, like, aren't people afraid of pit bulls more than
But
bulldogs? Like,
Bulldogs. I see more cute and cuddly videos of Bulldogs than
yeah.
heck. During the
I mean,
I
they
want to say the
waddle.
playoffs one year for football, the Longhorns had their Longhorn mascot in the building, and then Georgia had their Bulldog go right by it. They had to pull the Bulldog away because the Longhorn almost ate it,
Killed it.
killed it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's just,
So
there's way
I
too
don't know
many.
what the obsession is with Bulldog.
That's a good question. And
Not bad for one or two, but we're acting like this is the greatest mascot name in the world, and I'm just not into it.
I get
Wildcats,
that.
Wildcats, that's a good one.
There's a few of those too, though. There's a few
But
of those.
Wildcats is a good, solid mascot name.
Yeah, but everybody can't be a Wildcat.
Kentucky,
You know,
Arizona,
Kansas State,
East High with Troy Bolton. Great
course.
squad, state
Yeah.
champions.
Yeah.
If you want to
Some
go
would say-
all the way back to
Some
high
would say
school.
the greatest player to never play in college. Some would say that. So
Well, he was a great singer. So
I will say though we kind of did a little bit of a preview of the next round. I'm really excited for the next couple of games that we get to see. They're going to be the Kentucky game, and Houston is going to be in Indianapolis, right next door. Thought about going to it. Lucas Oil Stadium's going to be packed. I forget, in the Elite Eight and Sweet 16, or not the Elite Eight, but the Sweet 16, do they cut the court in half because they play them at football fields and then like have a curtain and then one side is, or is it just one big? Okay.
yeah, one big.
I thought I saw that. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Because there's going to be, I mean, Lucas Oil Stadium it holds 70,000 people.
Oh, they do.
I mean,
they do Final Fours there.
Rupp Arena holds 20 maybe, 20 something. 70,000, that is a lot of people, even if it is for two games, like two separate crowds, whatever. 70,000 people is a enormous amount of, like, it is a lot. I hope it's packed out. I mean, I don't care who's all there, but as long as there's people in the seats, I don't care who's, you got somebody to root for, no matter where you're at. But we'll kind of get into these matchups. Anything else on the games that happened, at least round 32?
Done.
The BYU Wisconsin game and the Maryland game winner obviously were pretty fun as well. Maryland finally on the right side of a game winner. I'll say that, and then we'll move on. I want to deep dive into these games. So obviously we talked about Tennessee, Kentucky could be a great matchup. Kentucky's won the last two. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, so they say. Except the numbers tell you that the person who wins the first two matchups is like a 74% chance to win the third one. So you take that for what you will. I'd say the next best game, simply for the factor of there's going to be a lot of points, is BYU Alabama. I think BYU can outscore Alabama. They seem like I would say Auburn and Alabama are the most volatile teams in this tournament because if Alabama starts missing shots, it could get ugly for them quick. But I think that'll be a really good game as far as getting to see some high level offense play against each other.
I am also rooting. Um, Bruce Pearl's a great coach, but and it's not because I don't like Auburn. I'm just strictly rooting for a rivalry matchup. Need Michigan and Michigan State to play in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four. That will
Yeah, it'd be
be
fun.
an unbelievable game. And I think Michigan, well, especially if they beat Auburn, they could definitely beat a Michigan State. And this Michigan State team still such a weird Michigan State team because they beat Bryant pretty handily. You know, Bryant actually put up a fight, and then they made a
All
run
the
towards
two
the
seeds
end.
did. I mean, Omaha looked like a good team against St. John's in the first half. Obviously, didn't help that St. John's couldn't hit a shot in either game that they played. Who was the other two seed? Bryant played
Wofford.
well. Wofford, I mean,
I guess
they look
Tennessee,
like
they had their moments. Tennessee Wofford was probably the most. And now, yeah, you're exactly right. St. John's won by 30, but that first half,
that first half. It
Omaha
looked scary.
was in that game.
And I told you about Omaha. I told you if Omaha got a better draw, anybody but St. John's, I would have picked them, especially if it was Alabama or Tennessee. And you saw that with Alabama because Robert Morris almost took them to the brink.
Yes.
I mean, Robert Morris put up a hell of a fight, and almost beat them. They ended up losing by 9, so the box score doesn't look like it was that bad. But man, Alabama was starting to feel it there in the second half towards the end. I think Alabama's a volatile team. I do think Duke, Arizona, just for the factor of Caleb Love versus Duke one last time, can he break their hearts again? Kind of going to be the story about this one, but I think this Duke team might be the best Duke team. I think it's even better than the team that won the national championship in 2015.
They're unbelievable.
They have everything. Like, obviously, they have the best player in college basketball, so that helps. But when that best player doesn't have to be the best player that night, I mean, it's a recipe for success no matter what team you are.
Yeah, because you have Tyrese Proctor who can go off like he did against Baylor.
Both games.
You have Knipple.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on and on.
You've
They're
got
deep.
Malawach who can be, they're really good defensively. It's just one of those teams that you can kind of feel like they can run through anybody until we get to this the Final Four.
Handling.
Yeah.
The only team that I think, like, if they're playing well, that can stay with them is Florida.
Yeah. Honestly, like, on their side of the bracket, if they play BYU or Alabama, they're killing both of them. If they play Purdue or Kentucky or Tennessee, they're killing all of them. I think Houston's the only one that can put up a fight to where it's within 10 in the second half. As far as, like, they have a chance. I don't think any of the other teams have a chance, which is crazy to say when we're this far in the tournament. I do think you're right. I think Florida, and even though they didn't play well, they still have that. They have the depth. Like, they can go as deep as any team in this tournament. But Florida's the only other team that can really compete with them. Of course, we'll say all that, and Caleb Love will break their heart in about, 48 hours from now. But I think Duke's on a path to just destroy everybody, and it could get really ugly. And it would be not good as far as a Kentucky fan, because obviously Kentucky hasn't won a tournament in about 13 years now, which is tough to say. And it'd be Duke's first title without Coach K. So we would know it wouldn't, Coach K obviously is the greatest coach in college basketball. Maybe behind John Wooden.
Yeah, it would be tough for Duke haters because Coach K leaves. You think it's going to get worse somehow, and 2 years, 3 years later, they end up winning a championship because all these coaches that have left, Jay Wright, ever since he's left, Villanova has been awful. Now,
Tony Bennett.
North Carolina's been fine. They've been.
I just feel like they got lucky.
Well, here's the thing: if you think about it, it's been 4 years, including this one since Roy Williams. First year, Final Four. Second year, I don't think they make the tournament. Last year, I think they made the Sweet 16. I might have gotten those years mixed up. And then this year, they lose in the round of
Playing game.
64. So
Yeah.
if I were to ask North Carolina fans or any college basketball fan, hey, after Roy Williams leaves, your first 4 years, you're going to see 3 tournament appearances, 1 Final Four, and 1 Sweet 16. Do you think they would be like, oh, that's pretty good?
I
I
think they
think
would.
so. I think
Yeah.
so. So when you think about it that way, but the thing is like North Carolina hasn't had that 1 or 2 seed because the year when they made the Final Four, that was a team that just went on a run.
Yeah, they were what, an 11 seed that year. Like
Yeah,
that.
I think
Those are the
so.
reasons that
And Ryan,
kind of make it feel.
they should have won the national championship.
Yeah.
They were up pretty big on Kansas at halftime. So they should have won the national championship, but then the Denver Nuggets Hall of Famer Christian Brown and
Obviously.
I'm going blank, Utah Jazz Hall of Famer Ochai Agbaji.
Obviously. Was Uzubuike or Azubuike on that team too? I'm trying to think.
No, he was 2020 actually.
Okay, because it was before Hunter Dickinson. I know that.
You know who was also on that team, which when they got him during the offseason, I knew they were going to be an insane team because they were using him off the bench. They had Remy Martin.
Remy Martin. You loved Remy Martin. Arizona State legend.
He was a good player. It's not like he could be. I just knew like having Remy Martin because he's a scorer. Having him off the bench that just takes their team to another level. So
yeah. So again, North Carolina, like if you really dive into it, you would think, hey, there's a chance that if the next few years don't go the way that they should, you might see a change. I think if you give the guy 7 years, and if he makes one run as an 11 seed, but he doesn't, like, they haven't been better. I don't remember what the seed was when they went 2021, but they haven't been better than an 11 seed, but at least 1 year. So like one out of the 4
I would
years.
push back on that and say, yeah, they haven't had a great team, but all that matters is you get it done in the tournament. So
It does,
personally, I don't look at it that way of, well, they were an 11 seed. I look at it as, well, they got to a national championship. So in the end, they were an 11 seed, but were they really? That's all that matters. If I'm a North Carolina fan, that's all that matters for me is we made the national championship.
Yeah, that's not sustainable to be an 11 seed and go on runs like that. Like
it's not sustainable, but maybe because they are a blue blood, you can look at it and say, well, they had the roster to do that. It's just the regular season didn't go their way. But they finally figured out when it mattered.
I also think, like, we kind of talked earlier about, like, the recruiting process it's not the same that it was. So obviously, like, you used to be able to go after 8, 10, 12 guys if you're the blue blood, and now you kind of have to limit it to 5, 6. You have less spots because you have to go in the transfer portal, or else you are missing out on elite talent that's going to get you to a Final Four. But you also you don't have the resources to be going out, and because you have to scout within the league now. So it's a very different dynamic, which is why you see the top guy going to BYU, which you would have never saw 10 years ago. So it's just, plus the NIL money, it's like anybody can throw out money now and get whoever they want. So it kind of, yes, the blue bloods have more resources, so they're still going to be at the top more than likely, but think about the last big time recruit that Kentucky had. I mean, other than
the one that comes to mind is Brandon Boston. I remember.
You mean the guy who's not in the league right now?
Well, he actually was getting some kind of good minutes.
Okay, don't talk to me about
kind of good minutes. He wasn't playing awful when the Pelicans had all those injuries, but what I'm saying. If we're being honest, there was a lot of hype around Brandon Boston when he. But
like Duke still gets the top guys. Like Duke still gets Cooper Flagg, Even Cal, when he was there, wasn't getting the number one guys. Like, he missed out on Zion. He missed out on Paulo. He missed out on Cooper wasn't his class for UK, but like there's a lot of guys that he couldn't get.
Why is that? Why
Duke's the
is
place to
Duke...
go if you want to be a number one pick. I don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, North Carolina has multiple championships in this century. Why would...
Have you ever noticed though? Like, they don't get the recruits. Their recruits that they get was always people they thought could be 4-year guys or 3-year guys. Like, you look at guys like, I'm trying to think. Like, obviously Cam Johnson was a transfer from Pitt, so it's kind of hard to go based off that. But like, they don't get one and dones very often. Like, Ian Jackson is in this class, and he probably is a one and done. But even then, like, they don't. That's not how they produce basketball players. Yeah, it's just Duke is one and done. You get your name out there, you go play, you go be a number one pick. Kentucky was like that. I don't know how it's going to be now with Pope there, but like the recruiting system is just all crazy now with the amount of money that everybody can just throw out. You just got to get a NBA owner to throw $6 million at the number one player, and you'll get him. So,
well, I guess it makes sense because when you think about the teams that have won championships with North Carolina, it's funny. I was just watching random videos on YouTube, and I got to the Oregon Ducks Final Four when they lost North Carolina, and the guys on that North Carolina team.
I think I lost you. I don't think I can hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Gotcha. I think I was getting a call from somebody. I think that's what messed up. Was my audio
Fair enough.
messed up? Yeah, that's
you were just talking about the guys that were on that North Carolina
I was
team.
talking about like North Carolina on that championship team, and they had like Jackson, and they have guys
Marcus
like
Page,
Marcus Page, or guys that were really good in college, but not necessarily. Harrison Barnes. That wasn't in 2017, but he's another one of those guys that he's a good NBA player. But even when they had Ty Lawson and Tyler Hansborough, those guys were nice role players, but they weren't a Zion Williamson or a Jason Tatum or anything like that.
They just don't produce the star. I mean, the last star that came out of there is Vince Carter, probably. Like, I'm trying to think of anybody else, and that's been a while.
Do you think they would run with that, having Michael Jordan and Vince Carter? And they probably are.
They probably try to.
It's a little bit different probably a little bit different when overall you have more guys, and you probably have more guys that have worked out in the NBA at a higher level. You can even go Kyrie Irving and Tatum and Zion.
Does this sound crazy? Like, tell me if this sounds crazy or not. But should North Carolina go away from so much Jordan? Like, are they too Jordan centric of like everything that all of our jerseys, all of our shoes? Because the kids, I don't know if you know, but the kids today don't care about Jordan or don't think he's, the GOAT or whatever. So they don't view him the way that the older generation does. So it's like now you're promoting something that these kids don't even care about.
No, I don't think so. That's just, for me, I don't really care about that. That's just a respect thing. And you know what? If I'm North Carolina and you're a kid and you don't want to come to North Carolina because you don't care about Michael Jordan, I don't want you on my team.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like that can't be your pitch. Your pitch can't be, well, Jordan went here, and then the kid goes, well, I don't care.
But no, that's not everything, because that happened. Heck, that happened so long ago. That was like in the 80s. So no, that can't be your pitch. But
yeah, but I'm saying if LeBron went to Duke and Duke LeBron went here, they go, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it would, but it's got to be somewhat cool. Michael Jordan. We're talking about Michael Jordan.
We're talking about kids that...
You really think kids don't care about Jordan that much?
We're talking about kids whose grandfathers are talking about Jordan. Kids' fathers nowadays aren't even talking about Jordan. It's their grandfathers. Like, we're getting to the point where we're about to have kids, but like people that are 10 years older than us still don't care about Jordan. Well, they barely saw him.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't think I don't think it's that bad to where you just need to scrap everything.
Well, I'm not saying scrap everything. But I'm just saying, like, your pitch can't be, hey, we got the Jordan gear, we got the everything, like Michael Jordan, obviously. And it's like, yeah, but these kids, some of these people like Paul George by the Michael Jordan. Like, that's the
No,
generation we're
I
growing
don't think
up
that
in.
can be that can't be your only pitch, but I would definitely use it, being a part of it, Michael Jordan. But the branding, it doesn't matter if a kid is choosing Duke because they have Nike and LeBron wears Nike. I
I'm
think
just
that's
saying,
I think that's a ridiculous thing. That sounds like a 2K thing. Oh
have
yeah,
you
I
ever
want to
seen,
go to this school because they're wearing Nike. You know how ridiculous that sounds?
if you don't think that kids commit to Oregon football because of the jerseys, you're insane.
I think that's different. I really do.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I think the branding's different, but when you're popping out jerseys every week, I think that's different. Like if it was a thing for North Carolina to wear like a new jersey every game, I think that would attract kids. Yeah, no, I guess that's a little a little hypocritical of me because heck, I am nowhere close to living in the state of Oregon, and I'm an Oregon fan. I am a bandwagon Oregon fan, and I'm proud of it because fifth grade Matthew loved when this Saturday they would wear yellow, this Saturday they would wear a cookies and cream uniform, this Saturday they would wear a Febreze uniform or something like that. Like it, I love that. Plus they had Marcus Mariota, and he was
That helped.
awesome, so that helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the jerseys definitely helps, but as far as like, no, I think that's a little too much, in my opinion.
Fair enough. That's why I asked. All right, let's get into these games. We'll get a little bit of predictions. We'll go to who's going to be in our final four because that's what we'll get to this weekend. Um, we'll start off on the top right section as far as the East goes. Duke, Arizona. Who do you got? And how many points are they laying? I know you're picking Duke, but let me see if you'll even pick the points. Right now, it's
I'll
nine
pick
and a
the
half
points.
spread.
Um,
So they're projecting Duke to win by 10 or more.
this game is in Rhode Island, I believe, or it's in New Jersey. Duke is just a tad bit closer
It's in Newark,
to
yeah. Newark, New Jersey.
Newark than Arizona. So it's going to be, I would say, a home game for the Duke Blue
Yeah.
Devils.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they win by more than 10.
Okay,
Because
fair
I
enough.
got to be honest, too. Watching that Oregon game, I don't think Oregon played well at all. And they somehow stayed in that game. Arizona made a lot of mistakes. And I know if they make those mistakes again against Duke, they're going to get whopped by 50 points. So, yeah, I'll take Duke to win by like 12 or 13.
All
But
right, and then we've
it
got
is March. It is
it is
March.
March. I say Duke win. I put Duke up there near the 15 to 16 range, with the way they've been playing. Alabama, BYU. Alabama's favored by 5.5. This game is also in Newark, New Jersey. Not really a home game for either squad. Who do you got in this and why?
I gotta go BYU. I have them in my original bracket. So
I'm gonna cop out and say I'm gonna take the over. I don't care what the number is. Right now it's 175, which I think is criminal. Which means they will all miss shots, and it'll be a 30 to 40 game at halftime, and they'll both end in the 60s. But I think BYU is also going to win. It's a fun story. You got to have some team that makes it a little further than they're supposed to. Can't all be chalk. Might as well be BYU. Let's see here. What else we got? We'll move down to the. Let's move down to the Midwest where we got Houston and Purdue being played in Indianapolis. Who do you got and why?
man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna trust Kelvin Sampson
Way to say it
and
right.
I did say it right.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Because
Yeah,
did you see that press conference?
I thought it was funny after we had the whole conversation about Gonzaga and Gonzaga.
Yeah.
So
And he goes out there and rips reporters for saying Gonzaga.
yeah.
And
Also,
then goes
this
on.
might be I don't know. I've never seen it as a huge deal. Um, which I don't know why I'm questioning somebody who's highly respected in college basketball, but I just think to go off on a reporter like that over something. Listen, by him making that statement, that is going to be broadcasted, and that video is going to be put out everywhere. And now that reporter has to see that video always come up and know that it was him. So it's very embarrassing for him. But
I get.
I understand it from both sides. And I think, we both were in broadcasting, so I kind of put myself in that spot is like, hey, are you really going to embarrass somebody over that right now? But also, too, you are a reporter. How do you not know the difference between Gonzaga and Gonzaga?
Especially when you're covering the game.
Yeah,
Um,
so
which they weren't covering that game. They were asking about the Houston game. However, the part that I mean, I guess he was covering that game, but he's probably a Houston reporter, is what I meant. Um, I think he was more just speaking as far as the regular people that just say Gonzaga, and he's like, those are the idiots, and he probably has a soft spot in his heart because I guarantee a lot of people when he was younger wanted to show off that he knows how to say Gonzaga, which why wouldn't you? Which we both have Houston in that game. I have them covering. I think they're going to smack Purdue. Biggest matchup of the weekend, I would assume, is Kentucky Tennessee. Tennessee is favored by 4.5 points. It's going to be a lot of blue in that stadium, I feel, but I'm sure the Orange will pack it out as well. Who do you got in that?
I'll take Tennessee. Um, I am a big believer in if you beat them twice before, it really always does seem like that third time around, the other team wins. I'm a
You
big
know,
believer.
I gave you the percentage.
I'm a big believer in that. So
Well, you can believe it, but the
that's the
numbers
only reason. But
say.
I would not be shocked. Kentucky has been playing really good in this tournament.
I think, I mean, you're never going to catch me on here saying that Tennessee's going to be Kentucky, so give me the Cats. However, I do think that narrative of, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. It's like, yeah, but it's just hard to beat that team. It was hard to beat them the first 2 times. It's just they're a good team. I don't think the third time playing them is the reason that we're going to possibly lose. It's just the numbers say 75. We have a 75% chance to win, but the game says you have a 45% chance to win. So it's just that's the nature of the game. But I do think Kentucky
I'm really
plays
glad
well
you
enough.
said that. I believe it when it's two teams that are good. If this was
Right.
like Kentucky and South Carolina, no, yeah, Kentucky can beat them 3 times in a row. But yeah, when you have these two great teams that are, it's like watching an NBA Finals. If a team goes up 2-0, you think a lot of people think to themselves, "Well, this team is too good. There's no way they're going to go down 3-0. They're going to come back and win this game." So that's kind of where the mindset comes.
I get that, but I'm going to take the Cats money line as far as they're going to win outright. I think Tennessee doesn't have enough offense if Chaz Lanier does not play well. I hope to God that the game plan is do not let him score a basket, make somebody else on that team beat you. But we shall see. Texas Tech, Arkansas, we haven't really talked about this matchup or these teams except for Arkansas. JT Toppin's going to be tough to deal with, but I think Arkansas has the size to deal with that. I will say, looks like Texas Tech is favored by 5.5. This game is all the way in San Francisco. I kind of like Arkansas on this, and it's mainly for the reason that they get Adou Thiero back in limited minutes. Boogie Fland has now played 2 games after coming back. They just have a little bit different edge and swagger to them. I think they could beat Texas Tech, and I'm going to pick them to win.
And also, I think we need a double-digit seed in the Elite Eight. That
It makes sense.
smells March Madness, and they're the only one left. They've, I guess, been the Cinderella team of. I don't know if you want to call them a Cinderella team because they're in the SEC.
They did start 0-5 in the SEC, so you can call them that.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, we'll go Arkansas Cinderella team. They definitely would. If Arkansas makes the Elite Eight, that would be the most shocking run of any of those teams in the Elite Eight.
For sure. Florida, Maryland, I don't think we have to spend too much time on this. I don't care what the points are. I'm taking Florida. Mainly because of depth. Maryland has a great starting five, the Crab Five, elite name, but by the time we get to the bench, it's going to get ugly. Florida would outlast them. It may be close in the first half, but I think by the time we get in the middle of that second half, you'll see Florida start to pull away pretty easily.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's why Florida's going to win this game.
Auburn, Michigan. We kind of alluded to this earlier as far as you said you weren't choosing it, but you want the Michigan State matchup just for ratings purposes. Auburn is favored by 8.5 points, which is very surprising to me. I think if there's a team that can kind of stay with Auburn as far as physicality, and they've got the big men, and somebody can stop Janai Broome, I think it is Michigan. I mean, they've got two guys down low that are really physical. Danny Wolf, not as physical. He's more of a perimeter-centric guy offensively. But the center for, I'm blanking on his name, for Michigan, I think could really cause Broome some problems, who's not been playing the best basketball in March. So that also plays a factor. Also, watching Auburn, I watched them for that first half against Alabama State in person, and I watched Chad Baker-Mazara in a timeout pout because he was coming out of a game against a 16 seed. Like, that's the kind of team that we're dealing with here, and those teams do not make it far. You can get so far with talent, but at some point, you've got to have that continuity, and I don't think they have it. They have one of the best freshmen in the country in Tashad Pettiford, but he can also only get you so far in this tournament. So I'm going to pick Michigan, and I feel like we're going a lot of upsets here recently, but I just think they're the better team cohesively.
Well, I also have not picked a 1 seed to
We picked Duke.
lose in the Sweet 16. Lose in the Sweet 16.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll go Michigan State. Again, this is a little biased because I think I want the rivalry game. I will say, though, a lot of people are, I think, sleeping on Ole Miss. Ole Miss has had a terrific tournament. They pretty much blew out North Carolina, and that Iowa State team was, majority of the time, they were the best team in the Big 12, and they did numbers on them, put up 91 points on them.
Well, I was going to pick Ole Miss because
Chris
Beard is a good coach. He's probably not one of the better people in America. He's had some stuff, allegedly, and I just think he's a good basketball coach. He's won everywhere he's went. I also think that about Dusty May, which is why I picked Michigan. So Ole Miss and Michigan could be that matchup. But your final four picks, you've got Duke, obviously. Who do you got coming out of that Houston Tennessee matchup you have?
I'll go Houston. I'm not real sold on Rick Barnes yet getting to Final Four or a championship. He's had some good teams and has been able to get over that hump. So until I see it, I'll stick with Houston.
All right, and then I think we both picked Arkansas and then Florida. I can only imagine that that's where the run ends.
This bracket looks, I mean, it's chalk, but that's what's worked right now. I guess
true.
For me, right now, I'll just go Duke, Houston, Florida, and then just to keep it a little different, I'll go with Michigan State.
Okay.
For a two seed.
I'll go Duke. I'll go Kentucky. I'll go Florida, and I'll go Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss makes the Final Four. It'd be interesting to see. They could get mollywopped here by Michigan State, and I'll look like an idiot. But we do get that revival bracket that we need to fill out, as if that's going to change the hearts for us, because we know that we sucked in the second round. But we will be back for the Final Four matchups. We'll talk about those matchups and as far as what's going to happen on that that national championship Monday night, and then we'll talk after the national championship. And then we'll get back to the NBA, which I know some people prefer that, but not much going on except for nothing, really. It's just useless basketball until we get out of college basketball. Then we can really focus on the NBA a little bit more. Anything from you, sir?
No, I mean, we're getting towards the end. NBA season is right around the corner of ending. So, looking forward to, I love March Madness, but looking forward to right when March Madness ends, we go straight into the NBA playoffs. So, we got it too good right now.
We actually go straight to the Masters, and opening
Oh,
day
yeah.
is this week. So, it's just the best time of the year
It's
for sports.
It's awesome. Opening day is also
And we are here.
tomorrow. So, Christmas for
Is it
me
tomorrow?
tomorrow.
Yeah, it is tomorrow. Today's Wednesday, as of recording. Yeah, go watch the opening day games. Those are some of the best baseball you'll see. All right,
Yeah.
until next time.